Hey, this is Rozz. Welcome to the DTAP podcast. I've got Dr. Nicole as well as Christabel here with me today. And we're going to be talking about mental health. Now, DTAP is, of course, Dr. Tan and Partners, and they are a GP Plus clinic with 10 clinics all around Singapore. Dr. Nicole, what is GP Plus?
So it's basically a link between the primary healthcare and specialist healthcare clinic. And we have recently moved into a mental health focus. Previously, the focus used to be more on like men's, women's health, and sexual health.
So now you have an added tier to that level of care. That's really cool. And I like that you have a vision to share medical information and making it more accessible for the masses. And that's why we're doing the DTAP podcast today. I just want to give you all a lowdown as to what to expect for this podcast. Obviously, we're going to be talking about mental health today and sharing a lot of personal anecdotes. PTSD, we're going to cover that. Anxiety. And we're going to talk about stress versus anxiety versus panic attacks. Is there any difference? How to spot that? Cyberbullying, which is unfortunately our reality these days. And, if we have time, we're going to be, of course, going into like personality shift. This one is like particularly interesting for me. So how are you girl? I haven't seen you in a long time.
I've been good. I'm very excited to be on this podcast. I'm very excited to learn more from you as well, Dr. Nicole.
Yeah. So what have you been busy with, Christabel?
I have been busy with Kai. So we're launching a new collection at the end of the year. I've also been quite busy with social media. But I think this year I have been entirely quite focused on me.
Yes.
Like putting myself as priority to understand, self-care in general. I know it's like a buzzword, right? But generally, to me, it's more of like understanding myself a lot better.
Yes.
And what works for me, what keeps me balanced, what keeps me sane.
And the last time we chat, which like properly, you've become a bit of a plant mom.
Oh, I have. Is that why I'm wearing green today?
I know. That's just like I'm looking at the plant, I'm looking at you, the plant, and you. It's like, yeah, you're like at one right now with whatever you're caring for.
But good news, they're still growing well.
Okay.
So I'm very happy with that.
Yeah.
And I've been sharing it with my friends. So that's been really fun.
So today we're going to be like punching straight into all the hard-hitting topics. We're hoping to draw some of your expertise on this. Of course, Dr. Nicole, you actually did a specialist degree in psychiatry.
I did some training in psychiatry, but I stopped the training. So it's more of like hopefully using the experience that I had while doing the psychiatry residency and being able to apply some of that in primary healthcare.
So what is the difference between psychology and psychiatry? Is there like a separate degree for psychology?
Yeah,
okay.
It actually is quite separate. So basically the psychologists, they can start off with any other degree, but the psychiatrists, I guess, they would need a medical degree first.
Okay.
And the biggest difference, I guess, would be that I guess the psychiatrists might not do as much talking therapy as the psychologists. So for example, like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is something that a lot of people are familiar with, they're typically done by the psychologists and not the psychiatrists.
Okay.
I guess our role is more of like seeing if there's any medical conditions causing the mental conditions and giving medications.
Okay. And the psychologist cannot give medications?
Yeah, they can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good distinction. Now, let's just, casually just dive straight into post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD, what is it about?
Okay. Well, I guess PTSD is a term that's quite popularized, and a lot of people, they kind of like want to use it quite loosely.
Yes, it's like become like a buzzword also, like, oh my God, I cannot stand this bad chicken rice, it's giving me PTSD.
Yeah, I actually don't really like it when people use it too loosely because I guess it minimizes a lot of the struggles that someone with actual PTSD actually experiences. So
what is it actually? Like, how do you know like you have it?
Okay, I guess the most important distinction, as with a lot of other mental health conditions, is how much dysfunction there has been in your life if you actually suspect that you have a mental health disorder. So like it's very, very tough for patients who actually have a traumatic experience, like the real like PTSD, to like really go about their daily lives, because the experience must be something that is so severe, so traumatic that everything just startles you. Even like a small, very, very far off like reminder would just like trigger you, and that just makes daily life very, very hard. So Yeah, it's not just about the flashback, the nightmares. It's about really going out of your way to avoid anything that will cause you to remember the incident. So it usually results in really, really a lot of dysfunction. Yeah. Yeah.
Is this something that's very, very foreign to me? Like, I don't even know if I have something. I can't stand people talking really loudly, and I've told this to like a few of my friends, because I don't know what triggers it, but whenever I hear like something loud, especially in my ear, like I actually feel it in my stomach, like I just like this is like weird, like jerk, a reaction that I just want to like punch or like shut this person down, and I don't know why. And I can't listen to people fighting as well, and I can't listen to music too loud, especially if it's something I don't like. That does not amount to PTSD in any form, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So if we were to be really strict with the diagnosis, then I guess it has to be an experience that is either very, very life-threatening, or you are exposed repeatedly to something that really threatens your sense of like security.
Is this something that's familiar to you, or like?
I'm not sure whether what I experience is called PTSD or anxiety, or I think all these words are quite confusing to me. But I do feel at many instances unsafe in certain like circumstances, especially when I'm when I'm alone, in a place where there's a lot of people. And I would just want to feel invisible. I think it just comes in waves. Not too sure whether it's called PTSD, but I think I do feel very unsafe. So when I'm unsafe, immediately I want to just get up and go. And once I get to a safe space, I will break down. So I'm not sure if that's what PTSD is. But yeah, maybe you can share a bit more.
I guess if really wanted to be very strict about it, then at least based on what you've said so far, probably it doesn't qualify yet. But rather than like to write it off, I'll probably need to find out a little bit more about you. But we don't have to do that today.
Yeah.
But I guess then the problem is really that the anxiety is very real, because it has caused you to have to like let go of things that you want to do at that point of time. So I guess that's the dysfunction that we really want to look out for whenever when we ask the patients, like, like how has it affected your life? So like you feeling the need to actually like remove yourself from the situation and having to like break down somewhere, I think that really points to a struggle that you're actually having, and that's when whatever issue that you're dealing with is now a problem. Yeah.
And do you feel this often?
It's a lot better these days. I would say that when I take better care of myself, and I fully understand what brings me peace, what makes me calm, it occurs a lot less. I think keeping a healthier lifestyle, like exercise, getting enough sleep, that has really contributed to the whole experience in general as well.
And when did this start?
Probably about like 2 to 3 years back. It's been quite a while now. I do think that it has gotten a lot better.
That's good to hear.
When I know how to draw like the boundaries for myself, when I know how to listen into what actually are the triggers, that has really helped.
And this is like general crowd, like of people like that you don't know, or is it like an event or like a space where you just fill with family members and friends?
I think it occurs when I least expect it. So it can be in a crowd, in public.
Yeah.
Could be in gatherings. I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But it's gotten a lot better. I think also because of COVID, you spend less time with
That's
a lot of
awesome,
people.
right? COVID. I know. COVID is, there's some ups and downs. This is one of the ups. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think later we'll touch on how I was sharing with Dr. Nicole how I feel like I've changed in the last 2 years as well. And I think we'll touch on that topic later. But if we are going into my anxiety and PTSD, I would say that it comes from a place of lack of knowledge. Then what I'll do is that I'll Google. Then after that, I'll get more worried about it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us, we're just
we're like Google doctors.
Then after that, you get very worried. Then after that, you freak out even more. And I think that's how like it just spirals. Yeah.
I just think it would be interesting to look at people's Google searches,
Yeah.
in the middle of the night. It's like when you have no one to turn to, no one to call, like all the clinics are closed, and then you have something that strikes you, and then you like are so specific. For females and males, the way they Google like a symptom or a problem is very different. Like for guys, they'll be just like, oh, one word,
Oh, really?
stomach ache. For girls, like, what do I do when the stomach ache feels like, it's only aching on the right side, and it's like a long sentence. You get like, yeah. How do you feel about Google Doctor?
Probably don't have a very positive view towards it, but I guess it's good. Sometimes it's good to Google because then you come having like being more, I guess, clear about what your objectives is. Then in a sense, the doctor will be clearer of like what is it that you actually want, and I guess there's a better match of like what you expect and what the doctor can give. But of course, it goes the other way. Like if you are a bit misinformed, then it's sometimes a bit hard to correct it.
Yeah. And so do you get patients coming in to see you saying like, okay, I've Googled this, I think that's might be this. Can you like expand on that? Does that annoy
definitely. Sometimes, yes.
Yes. Good to know. And then how do you counter that? How do you navigate around?
I think that's something that I'm just learning. Like, how sometimes if they come with something that they want, but they don't know how to articulate, and then they believe Google more than you, then it's a bit hard to like really navigate. But I think that's something anyone who deals with other people will have to like really learn how to navigate and circumvent about. But yeah.
I wish you the
but
best.
hits and miss.
Yeah. Let's hope lesser misses. Now let's talk about anxiety because Belle, you brought it up, right? Okay, how about this? We're going to refer to real doctor here, okay? What are some of the common anxiety symptoms?
Okay. I guess it will depend, it will differ between the different age groups, and I think that was something that Christabel mentioned when we were discussing what we wanted to talk about at the meeting today. So in the younger groups, for example, like the teenagers or the early adulthoods, it's a lot more common for them to have what we call like the panic symptoms. So the typical panic attack symptoms, such as like suddenly feeling very, very anxious, you just feel like the anxiety just keeps going up and it reaches a peak. And then together with that, you just feel a lot of physical symptoms, like you mentioned, like the stomach lurching, feeling like you're going to vomit, some headache, giddiness. So these are some the panic attack symptoms. So panic attacks can happen to anyone, but it becomes like a panic disorder when it causes a lot of dysfunction in the life. So you're so scared of getting a panic attack that you just lock yourself up at home so that you avoid any triggers, or you stop going to work because you just feel like anytime now the panic attack is going to come and you can't function. So things like that. So panic disorder and panic attacks more common in younger people.
And why is that so?
Don't really know the exact reason why, but the research has supported like a bit of evidence saying that it's more because of like the maturation of like the brain, the hormones and stuff like that. Yeah, but it does happen commoner in younger. Like the onset is commoner when you're younger. Then when reach like middle adulthood or maybe in the 30s, it becomes more of the anxiety disorders that we are more familiar with, the general anxiety disorder. So basically these people are just always anxious, they're just always tense, they just can't relax. Yeah.
And what would they look like if you're like always anxious and tense, like you just can't stop moving?
I guess that can happen for some, or they can just be always like irritable. Yeah.
Talk nonstop. Like what are some of the projections of like someone who has anxiety? Like so that, for people who are around these people, you'll know not to take it too hard. Because sometimes, when you have like when you're anxious or like you're insecure or like you just don't have confidence, you project it in like a certain way that might make you seem very antisocial, and people might just go, oh, that's a horrible person. Or like, this person, she's strange, let's avoid her. But actually this person's dealing with something bigger than just, being weird.
Code,
yeah. How can like noobs like me, like, spot like when someone's struggling and then maybe just give that person a break a little?
Like a telltale sign.
Yeah. It's a bit hard, right, to kind of pinpoint?
I think it's quite hard because it really depends on like the person's baseline, I guess. But
meaning if this person's not usually like that.
Yeah,
and then
correct. And then there's a difference or like a gradual difference. But I guess the very overtly anxious people, the easiest way to spot is if they're always fidgeting. Like, yeah.
Okay. Just like take a step back and just try to be kind sometimes, you know, if someone's too much for you, just take a step back and just walk away and then come back when you're ready to deal with that again. You know, you don't always have to like confront something head on. Yeah, and then maybe some people are just struggling at some point in time, you know, not to just keep pushing. So when do you actually see a therapist?
I would advise someone to see a therapist if they feel like there is really a lot of problems going on because of whatever they are struggling with. But I understand that it's also very hard to actually take the first step.
Yeah, it's very hard to tell people to go see a therapist as well. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I tried that once with my friend because therapy has worked for me. So whenever I go like, hey, can you go see a therapist? You'll be like, stop pushing me to like do things so that I can be better, so that you can feel comfortable around me. And I got that before. So I've just stopped telling people what to do, you know?
Or they think that you are saying that they have a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean they do, but
Yeah.
they don't like to be told that. And I'm starting to believe that it's not my place also to tell people that, hey, you need to go see a therapist. What are your thoughts on this?
For me, I went to therapy when I wanted to find answers. You know, answers to, because if I have answers, that means I can heal because I know exactly what is the root cause of it, right? So I went to therapy seeking answers, and then it really, really did help me.
Okay.
But I think one question that I really have is, will anxiety go away?
And does it worsen
Does
with
it
age?
worsen?
Yeah.
I think anxiety is a normal response, and all of us, we have things that we are anxious about. Like, for example, like today, the day before, I was really, really anxious. I cannot even sleep. I don't know how you all do
Because of
this.
this,
Yeah.
trust me, I'm also very nervous. I just don't show it. But after 20 years of like hosting, right, I am still very nervous before I go on stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you conceal it very well, so that's very good.
Because this is also like experience and skill. But the nervousness is there, trust me. Like just how I overcome it, this is what I do. So yeah, but it's normal, right? Oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm telling a psychiatrist it's normal. I'm just like a therapist.
Yeah. So I guess anxiety is really normal, and I don't think it will go away because it's a normal response. It's what we have to tell us that maybe a situation is scary, a situation is risky, and I think it's a good response that we should acknowledge. But of course, if you're referring to the anxiety that becomes an issue, then I guess in the long term, how much of it will go away will really depend on whether or not you develop your coping skills, and that's the thing that will vary from person to person. So things like the talking therapy, they work because they help you to find a coping method that actually works for you, so that you can better handle like future anxiety-provoking situations. Yeah.
So like hypnotism, rewiring your brain, biohacking, is it things like that? Post-it notes, that works for me. Post-it notes, like if you come to my house, you might see post-it notes on my mirror. They'll be like, okay, Rozz, take a deep breath, 3 breaths. And then at my bedside is another. And in my car, like sometimes I would have like, today, do not speed. You have 2 points left. Like, you know, let's try to be safe for everybody. You know, so like I have these things talking back to me because I don't have a partner, no parents, right? This is what I have to do lah. That kind of works. Please tell me it works.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if it works for you, that's why I say it really differs from person to person. Like, you can go online, you can search like the various coping methods, but I guess what's most important is to find what suits you the best and what you're most comfortable with doing. Like post-its probably won't work for me because I'm too lazy. I wouldn't write it at all, so I'll have to find something else. So yeah.
What
I
has
write
been
on my
working?
notebook.
Oh yeah, see?
I bring a colorful notebook around and I write all my thoughts on it. And I play that one song every single morning to start my day.
And would you want to share that song?
Oh yes, Chris. It's by Iruma, River Flows in Me.
Oh, I don't know that song. I think I should check it out. Nice.
Yeah, I'll put it
nice.
on repeat, and it really helps to set the tone and the mood for the rest of the day.
Okay, that's nice to hear.
Yeah, that's like a little ritual, almost like a little meditative thing as well, right? That's so awesome. I just like when I'm really, really, really like stressed, I would play like death metal and I don't even listen to that stuff. And I just need something angrier than me. basically coming out of the speakers. That's the only thing that calms me down, or when I'm really, really sad. And I don't think I've been really sad for like over 10 years now. But when I was, it will be a Holocaust film. Like, you know, to see people actually going to the gas chambers, like what could be worse than that? And then I was just like, okay, Schadenfreude. I'm suddenly better, you know, to kind of get a sense of perspective. I don't know if these are healthy methods, but they have worked for me. Or sometimes when I'm crying, nothing could be more sobering than holding a mirror to your face. So I would just like selfie video, and then I'll play it back and watch it and feel so upset and so embarrassed for myself that I actually went into that state, you know?
Yeah, I guess you're doing things like the mirror thing. That's what we call like distraction. So you're distracting from the thing that actually made you upset by
that's
by
actually a legit
replacing it.
method.
Yeah, I guess in a sense you are replacing it with something else. Then the seeing the Holocaust films, I guess it's more of like normalizing your experiences, which is really important, because sometimes I guess maybe a problem becomes very big to you and you don't really know how to actually see it in perspective. So being able to actually like normalize the experience, make the problem seem a little bit smaller is really important.
Okay.
Oh, you got it on point.
I tell you, I've got a natural, like, you know,
You're a therapist for
a
yourself.
self-healing thing. I read, like, you know, I found out that vagina is very self-healing and self-cleansing. I feel like vagina on two legs. Like, I'm that person for me mentally. Yeah. So I don't want to trivialize anything. It's just I just drew that connection. So yeah. So anyway, there are these words, right, that are often said. People seem to have them, and then we read about them on social media a lot nowadays because people are so connected. Mental health is such a buzzword. Stress versus anxiety versus panic attack. Like, what are they different? Like, what differentiates them?
I think they are interrelated, I guess. Like panic attack is a kind of anxiety symptom, as I mentioned before. So it's more of like a spectrum. Like there's a spectrum of like anxiety symptoms, and I guess on and off they can overlap. So in a sense, I think colloquially, I think if you like just interchange anxiety attack and panic attack, I think that's really fine, because you're just pointing out anxiety symptoms. And the role that stress plays in all of this is basically, if you're stressed, you can very easily precipitate like an anxiety or a panic attack.
And would you say the panic attack is actually the most debilitating, like, out of all? Like, physically, you just cannot move, or you're just frozen?
I guess that can happen when the panic attack is very severe and you just feel frozen. Sometimes I guess you can feel like as if you're really going to die, even though you know that that's not real. Or there are what we call like dissociation symptoms, whereby you just feel very disconnected from like yourself or like your environment. So in those circumstances, I guess the panic attack can be quite severe.
That's not what you experience, right?
No, I just feel like the whole room is becoming like really small.
Yeah, like squeezing in on you, I guess.
Squeezing in.
That's really trippy, man.
Yeah, but it's weird because you have so many other people in the room.
Yeah.
But it just feels really small, and it gets smaller by the minute.
And you feel like you can't breathe.
You feel really stiff.
Yeah.
And you all you can think about is like your exit strategy. Okay, after this, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna beeline down to the cab, and then I'll go home. Yeah. So I think that has just been my personal experience.
Yeah. That's why I guess when you ask like which is the worst thing to handle or deal with for anxiety, I wouldn't say it's like panic attack or like just feeling tense all the time, because it really can differ from person to person, but it's just how, like I would feel that my worst thing is if I'm struggling with like feeling tense all day and just very anxious all day, but then that might be different for someone who deals with very, very severe panic attacks. Yeah.
And as someone like, as a professional medical practitioner, right? Like you've studied psychiatry and everything, and all these symptoms that you study, have you actually felt them personally?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think something that drew me into psychiatry in the first place was also kind of like you, just wanted to know a little bit better, because it's actually really personal, right? Like mental health, emotions, like the various things that you feel, that's something that's really common for everyone. And I just wanted to know it better. So definitely I feel anxious. Like for me, particular anxiety provoking thing is if my phone rings. I hate talking on the phone because I'm very conflict avoidant. So every time the phone rings, it just makes me think that someone's going to confront me about something, ask me like, did I do this thing right or wrong? But obviously that's not the case with all phone calls.
Yes.
So that's something that like I struggle with personally.
Yeah. It's not a generation thing, right? Because I'm finding like the young, okay, so I'm 42 this year. You're way younger than me for sure. And how old are you this year?
29.
So I feel like a lot of the people in my life that are like below 25 or whatever, like below 30, they really hate phone calls. But I belong to a generation that just like, you know what, I need something, I'm just going to call you and like speak to you about it. So is it also a generational thing?
That one, I'm not too sure. Because I think a lot of people about our age are okay with picking up the phones, I guess.
Okay.
I do feel the same way though. I feel like whenever I get a phone call, it means something bad is happening.
Okay.
Like, if not, they won't call, right? They are okay with waiting for a message reply from you.
So now we want to talk about cyberbullying. Belle, you'd be like quite an expert on this. Not as a bully, but as the bullied. Like how it affects one's mental health and this constant anxiousness that probably got born out of it. I'll leave it to you to share your story.
I've been on social media for about 10, 12 years.
Yes, and you're very popular as well.
I don't know how to respond to things like
Yes,
that.
say yes.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
But I've also learned a lot and I've grown a lot since then. So I also think that cyberbullying has gotten a lot worse in the last few years. So cyberbullying can be something like, as simple as I think you're ugly and then I'll leave the comment on your page. Or it could be just through DM. So it's more personal. Or it can even go to, I remember I got this one. He's like, you better transfer me this amount of money. If not, I'm just going to do this to you and this to your family. There's a lot of different types. And I think it has reached a point where I'm actually quite desensitized to it. But I do acknowledge that it has hurt me. But in the last few years, I've learned how to, protect myself. So there are the ways to protect yourself. For example, you can actually block certain trigger words. And I think the younger generation should actually adopt this, because if not, then all these words really hurt like your sense of self.
So when it was really, really bad, like how did it affect you? What was your day-to-day life at the peak of like that cyberbullying experience? I
unfollowed everybody.
Okay.
On Instagram, including my friends, family, and I followed 0 accounts at the time. I mean, they did mention that if you want to feel better, you have to make your workspace, which is Instagram, a safe space.
So when you say they, you're talking about your therapist?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And by unfollowing everybody, I consume less.
Yes.
And then I can really focus on feeling better and improving my relationship with social media.
I actually find it very interesting that you unfollowed the people that you were following rather than take a break from social media, which is what a lot of people, like a lot of celebrities, right, when they're bullied into deleting their accounts, but you didn't choose that route. Why is that so?
I think it was because I really, really love social media.
Me too.
And it's very weird to say, but I grew up loving,
sharing
ideas, and it adds to my enjoyment.
Yes.
So if I have a good day, I love to share about it. If I'm writing something, I like to share.
It's like a diary.
Yeah. And I refuse to let, cyberbullying and also my negative experience on social media to affect that. And I knew that it's also my workspace and I need to be responsible for my work. And the last thing I can do is just up and go.
Yeah.
So in order to make my space a lot healthier, I consume less by, if I want to reach out to my friend, I can just call.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
I'm okay calling friends. Calling friends are fine.
yes. Oh, it brings me so much joy to know that you love making phone calls too. I don't feel like the old fart here. Okay, so when you were at your lowest, at the, with the whole cyberbullying episode, was it immediate that you made the decision to kind of clean up your social media, or did you have to endure that space for a while as it was, and then how much time did it take for you to realize, hey, this is what I need to do to clean up the space?
I think about less than a week.
Okay.
I remember I was going to bed and I was like, what can I do? And then I looked at the list of people that I was following.
Yeah.
Whether I like it or not, when I scroll through their stories, it just gets stuck in my brain.
Yes.
So I want to declutter that. But little did I know, you cannot unfollow everybody at the same time.
Oh yeah, you have to
So
do
you
it
have to
one by
click
one.
one by one. And I was following 900 over people back then.
Oh.
And it took me 3 days to unfollow everybody.
Oh my God, why 3 days? Do you do it
So
non-stop?
then it will hang.
Oh yeah.
Then after that, when it hangs, you have to restart, and then you fall asleep. Then you go to the next day, then you just unfollow again.
And you came to this on your own, like not your therapist, right?
Yeah.
They didn't tell you any of this. This is just like your defense mechanism.
Correct.
Okay.
And everybody thought I was hacked. Then they were like,
Because they can't take it, right? Why am I being unfollowed? They take it so seriously.
Yeah.
But I think after a while, they got used to it, and they were like, okay, I will not follow you too then. But I guess it's okay. I think it really did improve my relationship with social media.
Yeah. And your thoughts on this? Doctor.
Actually,
Doctor.
Was it a good move?
I think the thing that really went through my head the entire time was that I think you're very resilient and very brave. Just the latest thing that you said, like taking 3 days to like slowly unfollow everyone. I think that is persistence. If I was so stressed out by something and I have to do it over a few days, I think I would probably just like hack it and just like cover myself with a blanket or something like that. But and you chose this thing because you realized what was important to you and you stuck through it, like your responsibility to the job and everything. And I think that's really not an easy thing to do. Not everybody can do that. Yeah, that's why there are problems. Like when people are going through bad stuff, then they forget about their responsibilities, but you didn't. So yeah, I think you're really very good.
Good, like remark.
Yeah, you
but
need
it's
to give
really
yourself
very
credit when there's like, strength and all that. And you did it on your own accord as well. It's not like on advice from anybody.
Yeah.
And I, on a smaller level, do that as well. Like I have a friend, okay, she's quite popular. Like her name is Wendy Xia, and we've been friends for a damn long time. And we've talked about it between us like many times. I've unfollowed her, followed her back, followed her, unfollowed her. Like not because we're not friends in real life, but sometimes someone's online persona either doesn't interest me or it doesn't do me any good. Like because it stays, whether or not you take in someone's post or photos, right? It leaves an imprint in your mind, and sometimes, even if you just flip past, right, it might manifest in a dream or a nightmare if it's really jalat, And I don't want that. And I get it when you say, like, I don't want that in my mind. Or people who keep talking about their work all the time, I don't see any of their personal lives. And I'm like, why don't I just meet you for coffee to get to know you rather than look at your work stuff on Instagram, But when I find myself doing that, unfollowing friends, I would always find myself having to explain to them why I unfollowed them. And I'll be like, dude, didn't I just meet you last week? Didn't I just text you today to ask you how you are? Why does that not mean anything to you? Why does this following each other thing mean more to you? There's something wrong with our friendship. So yeah, that's little struggles that we have, right? Because we love social media. The constant anxiousness of having to explain yourself on social media. Do you have patients coming in to you for anxiety related to social media?
Guess they not really, but I guess it will come out on and off with certain patients, especially the younger ones, when they talk a little bit about how they have to think a lot before posting an Insta story or something like that. And yeah, but I guess not that I've encountered, because I guess the patients that I've seen so far, social media isn't as big a part of their like life and career as yeah.
So you see older people, is it?
No
or just
lah.
people?
But I guess they're not really like public figures, so like the social media doesn't really like affect them to the point where they'll talk about doing sessions, I think. Yeah, but of course day to day, I think a lot of them, like on a smaller cyberbullying level, it's more of like, will my friends think this of me if I post this? I think you mentioned having to worry about before posting something, right?
Yeah, and I have a lot of followers who, before they post something, they would censor away their face.
Oh.
And then they would just like make it like a blank circle. and then they'll post it up. And I think that happens a lot with the younger generation.
Wait, I
nowadays.
don't get this. What's this?
So there's a lot of people on TikTok who are like quite they're very confident on social media, but there's a whole group of people that are also very shy.
Okay.
So they will just post a picture with their friends, or like if a picture taken with me, and then they'll blank out their face.
Why would they do that?
I have no idea. But I do think that it's something that I'm concerned about.
Okay. Why?
Because I didn't see that in my generation, like in the people who, post things. Like last time we just care about what filter to put up, then we'll just put the photo up. But now they will deliberately like censor their face and then post it up. And then maybe 1 month later, their whole Instagram will be wiped out again.
Yeah, I noticed that part.
Yeah.
Like suddenly you have 0 posts. Like I've got the son of one of my cousin nephew, I don't know. And he has 0 followers. And he's following maybe a few family members like me, and then 0 posts. I'm like, name me one good reason why I should follow you right now. But they do that all the time. The 15 squares of photos, and then they'll delete it. Why do you think why does that worry you?
I think they're putting a lot of thought into what they post online, what they share, and I'm not too sure whether they're thinking too much. And it worries me because when I see them blanking away their face, it's your identity,
Yeah.
And I would think about the struggles that they're going through, how to approach it even on like my platform and not sound like an aunt or sound like a old fart, and like, you guys shouldn't do this, you guys shouldn't do that, or like you guys should dress this way. I mean, yeah. So I'm worried, and I want to know, how to steer my content to make them feel more comfortable on social media.
How has that worked so far?
So far, it's been okay. I talk to a lot of my followers on DMs, but it's always at the back of my mind, like what can I do? What more can I do? What kind of conversations can I have? And I realized that, after being on social media for so long, and also with my stories, I'm trying to do more because I feel responsible for my community and I care about them, and they do support my work as well. So I think conversations like that really help because if they're tuning in, they will pick up a tip or two as well.
Yeah. Well, don't think I didn't notice that you looked towards my way when you said old fart. So that stuff stays.
No, because I was taking a word from you. You're not
that stuff sticks, Christabel. I'm good.
You look great. I
have
like you.
wisdom and the ability to forgive. So let's move on.
Where's the blanket? I need the blanket.
Okay, moving swiftly along, because I think we do have some time. We can touch on this what is called personality shift. I don't understand this at all. Shift in personality, like what does that mean? Because as we grow older, like we pick up more inspiration from people we look up to, or like from life experiences that shape who we are. So I don't understand why a shift in personality is bad or what it means, because people always constantly change and grow, right?
I think my question to add on to that was because I feel very much more like an introvert, and when I did my what do you call that, MBTI?
The Myers-Briggs test.
Yeah, so I was an ENFP, and now I'm like a INSTJ.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, does it change over time, or is this normal, or is it like an issue?
Right.
Is it because of anxiety? Yeah.
I think it's something like what Rozz said, whereby your certain personality traits, they do change with time because of like your experiences, the different people that you encounter, and I guess definitely that can shape the personality. But there'll be certain core things that don't change. So I guess if you, like for example, if you take the MBTI, I personally really like doing personality quizzes because it might not tell you exactly what your personality is, but it shows a large part of what you think you are. So that helps you to understand yourself better. And I think that's something that's always helpful. So maybe I guess changing from an EN to an IS definitely means that there has been a marked change. But then you have to look at like the individual breakdowns, like whether or not like your percentages were actually borderline from the start, or they were actually quite skewed. yeah, but then like I said, the personality creases and the certain traits that you're very attuned to, these are really like the outward manifestations of your personality. And that would depend a lot on like who you have to interact with, the environment that you are. But they are not the core personality traits that you actually really have, I guess. Yeah. So
Like, can you cite an example? Like, for instance, if you are someone who, what would you call a core personality trait? Like, just an example.
like
Assertiveness.
maybe so for example,
Altruism.
like I guess the core comes out more strongly whenever you're encountering a difficult situation. So for example, like maybe if your instinct is actually to avoid conflict, then perhaps if a day-to-day kind of thing, like maybe if I'm working there is a patient that I don't handle so well, I will have no choice but to like just like do it and get on with it. But if something happens that really affects like my core fear, then if my instinct is to actually be conflict avoidant, then maybe I'll do everything in my means to avoid ever having to see that person ever again. So these are like I guess in the day-to-day, you won't really drive out your core personality traits, although it can influence your general habits. But it's only when like something big happens that really triggers like a core fear, then your core trait will come out. And the core trait usually doesn't change because it's affected very much by like your childhood experiences.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice, interesting. And yours is like clearly resilience. Right?
I would say so. But this is something that I discovered after going through all the different challenges.
Yeah, a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
Only through those adversities that you actually see what you're truly made of. And you say, doctor, that does not change. That remains constant.
Kind of, but of course it can change for the better if you actually have some like what we call maladaptive coping.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess that's what therapy aims to do. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. And I'm an advocate of like, seeing a therapist, but not when you have a problem, but, just because I view it as spa of the mind.
That's such a nice way to put it.
No, it is true. Like it's such a
Yeah.
privilege, right? To be able to sit down and talk to someone and figure out, because I think what's most dangerous is when you don't have an obvious problem. Like, you think you're normal, but none of us are normal. We are like a byproduct of our parents' whatever traumas and idiosyncrasies and, and they're doing the best they can as parents to bring us up, but they have their flaws. And we carry that forward, and if we don't nip it in the bud, like we might, impose these sets of whatever inherited from our parents to our children, the people in future. So I highly suggest you go, have a little chit chat, find someone that fits. It's like finding a hairstylist, someone you're comfortable with. And it's deeply personal. And there's so many options on so many different levels, from public health to private care, various like budget options as well.
Yeah.
But definitely do see someone. And you guys at DTAP, you offer this service like over telemedicine? No.
I guess we can offer mental health consult, but if it's really like specific talking therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy, that kind of thing, then it's not something that we actually offer. But it's more of like the mental health services. Like if you think you might be struggling with a mental health condition, then by all means you can make an appointment to come and see, and we can see if there's actually
Someone
a
you can
problem.
refer.
Yeah.
And how did you find your therapist? Was it, how much trial and error did you have to go through before you settle on one?
I think I was quite fortunate. I was sharing with my friend about it, and then she had a contact. So I reached out, and yeah, it's been really good since. It's been 3 years.
Yeah.
But what I did was that, okay, I'm quite like I have this to complete, so I need to feel better in order to work better. So that was my reason for going for therapy. And once I hit that objective, I stopped therapy. But I do realize that it's like an ongoing, like a spa, and I need to keep up with it because it should be part of my life. Like taking good care of my mental health, whether it is I check in for like a bi-weekly or once a month session. Think that is also important. Yeah, I didn't have much struggle finding a therapist, but I know a lot of friends who do. And they find it hard to find a good fit. Sometimes they have to reach out to therapists from overseas and they just run their therapy, on Zooms as well.
Yeah, I do my checks by the decades. So once in my 20s and once in my 30s. I just did one in my 40s. The questions do get deeper because as you understand yourself better, you tend to ask like more deep questions that could help benefit you more because you're now more aware of who you are and what you're made of. So yeah, highly recommend it if you can afford the time because there's always a budget for everyone, I feel. Any more you'd like to add before we call it a quits?
You're not an old fart.
Right, we're still going there. Okay. All right. Just keep, keep pushing. Thank you so much, Dr. Nicole, and thank you so much, Christabel, for your time. My name is Rozz, and this has been a DTAP podcast.